fly this morning. Our preacher's not here for some reason. I'm going to go over one of the parables found in Matthew 20. And it kind of goes through about the first 15 or 16, actually 1 through 16. This is called the parable of the vineyard workers. And I think we can all kind of relate to this. Who's ready to read? Okay. I guess it's going to be a little bit shorter than what I had planned. Alan, you want to read for us?
Sure.
The first, about through verse 6. 1 through 6.
The kingdom of heaven is like a master of a house who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into the vineyard. And going out about the third hour, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and to them he said, "You go into the vineyard too, and whatever is right I will give to you." So they went. Going out again about the 6th hour and the 9th hour, he did the same. And about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing. And he said to them, "Why do you stand here idle all day?"
Okay. Jim, you want to read 7 and 8, please?
Because no one was hired us, they answered. He said to them, "You also go and work in my vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first."
Okay. Dave, can you go from 9 to 12?
Yes, sir.
And then Janice, when he's done, can you finish it out?
When those who were hired, about 5, came, they each received 1 denarius. So when the first ones came, they assumed they would get more, but they also received a denarius each. When they received it, they began to complain to the landowner. "These last men put in 1 hour, and you made them equal to us who bore the burden of the day's work and the burning heat."
Yeah, just to the end right there.
Okay.
13 through 16.
Okay. But he answered and said to one of them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what is yours and go your way. But I wish to give to this last man the same as to you. It is not lawful for me to do what I wish with what is mine. Or is your eyes envious because I am generous? Thus the last shall be first, and the first last."
Okay. Let's get a couple of different opinions on what this parable is trying to tell us. If somebody wants to start in, Alan? No idea? No? I'm sorry?
We're all one in Christ.
Okay. Now, is this about the guys that he goes and finds out and says, "Hey, I need you 3 guys to come work with me." He goes out there at 7 in the morning. Then he goes out about noontime and gets 2 more. "Hey, I need you guys to come in and work for me." Then he does that 3 or 4 other times during the day. And they agree to a certain salary. "Oh, okay. I'll pay you this." "Okay, yeah, okay." And then he finds some other guys towards the end of the day. Says, "Hey, I still need some more work done. I'll pay you X amount." Okay. I'm not quite sure how much a denarius is, but I'm guessing it's
A day's wage.
like a day's wage. So, we can break that down to what we make now, more or less. But the point is, everybody, all the different workers agreed to what salary they were going to get. So then when it comes towards the end of the day, come time to pay the workers, The ones that have been working all day or just kind of rubbing their hands and say, okay, I should probably get paid more than this guy. But what the landowner did is he had his foreman start from the back, the most recent hire, worked backwards, and paid them the same as the first few guys, the first few workers. So, the first guy says, hey, wait a minute, that's not fair. I've been here out in the field working all day. This guy's only worked 2 hours. How come he's getting paid the same thing that I am? So the landowner tells him, makes the comment, hey, this is my land, my vineyard. Didn't you agree early on that I would pay you X amount of dollars? Yeah. Okay then. Why should it bother you? I paid you what I agreed to. Did I not? Well, yeah. What concern is it of yours if I paid this other guy the same thing? It's my vineyard. He's working for me. I can pay him whatever I want to. Are you telling me that I can't do that? So it's kind of a bit of a harsh lesson if you're the first few guys that got hired. And the correlation there is that the landowner would be representative of who? God. Okay? And as we trickle down to the workers are who? Yeah, the believers, the people. So the way I equate it is, and I'm sure somebody has a different opinion or maybe a better one, probably a better one, is that you have different groups of people that are doing this work, and I correlate that to different believers that have come to be believers at different times. We have some believers that accepted Christ at a young age, and maybe they've gone through 50, 60, 70 years of helping further the work of the church, like Jim and Janice. Okay? Then you have the middle group of people, maybe in their 30s or 40s. They've come along, they've accepted Christ, been baptized in the whole bit, and then they're doing the same thing. Then we have some people that maybe came across it late in life and through no fault of their own. You explain to them, you have some study with them, and you explain to them what's going on. And at least a few that I've talked to says, hey, nobody ever told me about this. How come nobody shared this with me? And they may be 60 years old and say, hey, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready. So, what I get out of this parable here is that no matter at what point you came to come to Christ, you're still entitled to the same reward. I was going to say benefit. Benefit's a bad word. That means you earned something, which a lot of times we don't earn it. But the same reward, whether you come into it late or you come in and toiled for 50 years. Sometimes there's a resentment there from the guy that's been working for 50 or 60 years compared to the person that comes across it late. And maybe he got baptized today. He's all happy. Just can't wait to tell everybody, leaves the service, and heaven forbid, gets hit by a truck or something. Or he's on his way to the airport, going to the airport to go on a business trip and his plane crashes. And he dies. Now, logic tells us that, well, you know what? Why should this guy get the same thing that I did when I've been working most of my life and he's just barely beginning? Is that for us to decide? Does it fair? the famous words fair. You know, I don't, and it's not our choice, it's not our decision. We have a tendency as humans to think along that line, and well, that's not really fair, you know? It's like when you're at work, whatever type of work you're doing, and you've been at this company for 10 years, and you get another person that comes in and has worked there 3 or 4 years, and yet when there comes time for a promotion, this person that's only been there 3 or 4 years gets promoted ahead of you. Now, we can stand back and say, well, wait a minute, that's not quite fair, you know, which is our natural tendency. But it's up to whoever owns the company that I'm going to promote this guy and not you, but I have a reason why I'm not promoting you. But, does that happen to anybody? It's happened to me. It's happened to me, you know. And sometimes we can be bitter about it. But as it works out most of the time, there's something better for you down the road. It's just that you're disappointed with what's going on right now. So that's kind of the way I break it down, unless somebody has something they want to interject. David?
One of the things I get out of here, we use a word in society a lot called overqualified. And you know, and you can't get somebody to do this because they're overqualified. Yeah. But yet if they want to just serve and do that, and the reason I bring that up is a lot of this puts emphasis on the individual. Say, well, I did this, I can do that, and all these other things. And the parable is about grace. It's about God dispensing His grace whom He wants. It has nothing to do with how qualified you are.
Or if we even deserve it.
Nobody deserves anything. You don't bring anything to the table that you deserve. One of the interesting things at the end of chapter 19, and then again within the parable and at the end of the parable, the same phrase, a little bit different wording is used, but those who are first and those who are last, how that works out on everything. I relate the message of it to my line of work as a minister that I did for years. And if I do a comparison, for example, with Raymond, it has nothing to do with how many years I preached and how long he's preached, what training I had. You know, if you can do the work, do the work. You know, and it's just that's what's needed, and being able to recognize that. Yeah. And I think if we find the word grace and put it in there and apply it, and so I think it applies at several different levels, several different areas there with each one of us. That it's not based on who I am and what I've done, it's based on God's grace. And be glad that God dispenses His grace on others.
Yeah, when I was doing a lesson series a few months ago, actually during the summertime, about all these different parables, this one here kind of is an eye-opener, you know. And on the surface, like I said when I started out, why is this story being told? Why is Jesus telling this story about these guys going out picking grapes? You know, where we come from in the Central Valley of California, that's an everyday thing. You can go 2 or 3 different parts of town in Stockton, and there'll be 30 or 40 guys there waiting to get chosen, so to speak, to go out and do some work. Whether it's picking grapes, chopping onions, any kind of labor, agricultural work. And they're not fighting each other. There's 30 or 40 of them out there having coffee and talking. And every little bit, a pickup will come in, and he'll say, okay, I want you, and you. And they hop in the back of the truck, and off they go. A little bit later, another one comes by. And that's what they do. They pay them day by day. And they're picked day by day. Some of them are out there that I've seen don't even kind of look like they want to work, you know. Those that do, as soon as the pickup comes in the driveway, it's usually at a gas station or something like that. I mean, there's several of them already walking towards it before the guys even stop. But like I said, it's all, to me, it's all of a question about what's fair. You know, how come this guy's getting the same reward, like Janice said, that I am? Well, it doesn't matter. Once you get baptized and you're a believer, you're, and I'm slipping again, or I was just going to say, you're entitled to the same thing. We're not entitled to anything, but we do have the same reward coming.
You hit the nail on the head with the word entitled. In the context, Matthew's gospel is dealing with the Jews. And one of his favorite phrases is fulfilled. It's fulfilled. So the Jews should have looked, God is making a transition through Jesus as Messiah to a different aspect of the kingdom rather than what the Jews had known for 1,500 years. And it was all based upon their works, their accomplishments, what they had done, and who they were. And God is saying, no, it's based on who I am, not who you are.
Yeah.
And being able to bring people in who have not had all of the Bible available to them that you've had, that's okay. I still want them as my people. And I guess one of the things is learning to see it from God's eyes rather than through theirs.
Well, like I said a few minutes ago, maybe they found out about it later in life, you know?
Yeah, the implications were strong. They didn't like what was being applied.
You know? I mean, you can't put it any plainer than that, you know? And like the first group of workers complaining, I mean, we're not owed anything. You owe me. No, I don't. It's through mercy and grace that's available to us. So,
But that's so opposite.
looks like you want to say something.
That's so opposite of what the world thinks, you know, I mean.
Well, it's obvious now to us because we have the benefit of going back.
But I'm just saying, it's gimme, because I deserve it,
Mhm.
you know, I mean.
Yeah. And unfortunately, within the last several years, it's become, sadly to say, an entitled society. You owe me this. I deserve this. Well, no, you don't. And some people, it takes quite a while for them to get to have their eyes open, you know. Because I've come across it when I was in the service and during my work, you know, certain circumstances had come up, and people would get upset, and I say, you know what, they owe that to me. And I try to tell them, I said, no, they don't. What do you owe yourself? You know? I really personally, hate's a strong word, but I despise that word entitled. I'm entitled to this. You know, that just irks me to no end. You know, you can work, and yeah, you think you deserve it. Yeah, maybe you have earned it to a certain degree, but we're not entitled to anything. God gives us things by His grace, by His love and His mercy. So, is there anything else we want to mention and bring up on this parable? Denise, you look like you're deep in thought there.
No,
You're looking for something.
no, just looking around.
And you know, if you just take a few minutes and just think about it, read this, and I've read it several times before I started, when I did my lesson series during the summer. And each time I read it, I get something a little bit different from it. You know, like we agree on, the owner of the vineyard is God. The vineyard is the world, so to speak, and those of us that are in it. And then you have the workers that are, some are believers and some aren't. So, is there anything else we want to bring up on this parable? Alan? out of this. Come on, I'm ready for some additional input. I can make note of it for when I do it the next time. No?
I checked off everything I had.
Okay. Okay. Dave? Jim?
I was just thinking of a new Christian arguing with an elder.
Well, I'm thinking, and I'll flip it, and I'll say you have the older Christian arguing or trying to make a point to the young one. Well, not necessarily the younger one, but the newer one. I mean, somebody could be your age, and don't laugh. Jim's he's a good example. But somebody could be, okay, let's say 60 years old, and somebody does a study with them and say, you know what, nobody ever told me about this. How come I'm just not hearing about it? You know? And then there's a little bit of resentment because the guy, like I said, the guy that's been doing it for 50 years, you know, and he should be in the right mind instead of saying, hey, you know what? Why is this guy getting the same reward as me? Instead of saying, you know what, welcome in, brother. You know, if there's anything you need, I can help you. Let me know. You know, instead of being joyful and happy for the guy, there's a little bit of resentment there. And that shouldn't be.
I just thought of something that, with one of the phrases you used a while ago, in light of this pandemic and all that we're doing and all that's going on with new wave of politics and things like that, and on again, you know, on that, we have a young generation that doubts and questions a lot about God and the scriptures, and I keep thinking about
everything too.
Yeah, and I keep thinking, you know, when things get back to where we can do it, what do we need to emphasize? And it dawns on me that maybe the parables might be a good study to do, especially with the younger generation, because the idea of entitlement is never there with God. God owes us nothing. Be grateful for what He's given to you. I was taught years ago, you know, there's the perspective of saying, boy, look at all this that happened to me. Look at this, but look what didn't happen to you. Look at how you were blessed to, you know, if you were in an accident or whatever it is, you know, that happens like that. And learning to see things from an appreciative perspective of the grace of God.
Yeah. Every once in a while I'll bring up, I know everybody in here can remember 9/11. Okay? I read a story about this guy. He was on his way to the airport, and he had some mechanical issues with his car. So he was all upset about it. Man, I'm going to miss my flight. I got to wait for a tow truck. Why do these things happen to me? And then later on, he hears what happened, and he goes, whoa, wait a minute. I was lucky that happened, or that was a good thing that happened to me. Didn't think so at the time, but that's the way it ended up. Now, was there what they call divine intervention there? And then I never read any more or heard any more about later on what this guy, you know, because he was saved, so to speak, what did he do with that? You know? Did he make good of his life? Was he a bad person, semi-bad person? Turn his life around?
A lot of grace available.
I'm sorry?
A lot of grace available.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And God, it's not like God's going to run out of it, you know. Myself, I've been in some pretty bad situations, and it's like, I don't think about it. I never thought about it so much at the time these different things were going on, but when these events were over, I would sit down and I would like basically collapse. say, okay, wow, I survived that. Why did that happen? Why am I still here? Well, I don't know. God's got something for me to do, or something more for me to do. I don't know. Am I lucky? Well, I did another lesson series on comparing being lucky to being blessed. So it's not so much luck as God decided to bless me at that time. And it's been more than one time, let me tell you. My wife knows almost nothing or very little about stuff I've been involved in. And intentionally, I don't let her know about it because I don't want to put that burden on her that, oh, you know, you can't go to work tomorrow, or you can't do this, you know, you got to stay home. Well, you know, I just call it business as usual, but that's a bad term. But
It's to be expected in life.
for me, it's business as usual. There's been a good 8, 9 times, if not a little bit more, where you know, I should have been killed, but it didn't happen.
One of the things that, one of my favorite song titles and songs is Count Your Many Blessings.
Yeah.
It's not count your many close calls.
Yeah.
Not count how many times you had something bad happen to you. Count your blessings, because there's the good that's there. And the more you can look at that side of it, the more you can look at things from God's perspective. That been blessed beyond anything we deserve. If we really got what we deserved, it wouldn't be a denarius for every hour we worked that day. If we got what
We'd be paying back.
yeah.
And we should pay back.
Right, and we can't even come up with enough to pay back.
Yeah.
We don't even have that, so
Yeah.
count the blessings, enjoy the grace.
It's like, you know, like I get up here sometime once in a great while, you know, whatever my lesson is, I'll interject a little bit, sometimes about 9/11. And then I'll say, well, you know what? Did you have a warm bed to sleep in last night? Did you eat at least 2 meals that day? Did you get up this morning? Are your kids doing okay? Do you have a car to get to work? For that matter, do you have a job? Be thankful for all that stuff that we take for granted. You know, because just like that, if God wants to, He can take it away from us. He's given it to us, but He can also take it away if He wants to.
When you look back in your life and you can see the hand of God, how it's intervened and been involved with you, it just kind of blows your mind at times. When I look back on my life, when I went into service, I was very fortunate to be able to go in, because based on the way they do things now, health-wise, they wouldn't have let me in. Had heart murmur. It was less than 1 on the systolic scale, but they let me stay in. I had to sign a waiver.
That's because they have a quota.
Yeah, I went in carte blanche, just, you know, do with me whatever you want. Never had to go to Vietnam. And sometimes I'd say, well, boy, I missed out. No, I don't think I really missed out. And where I went was where I needed to go so that God could prepare me to hear the gospel. Yeah. And then all the good that I've been able to do for Him since then, and been blessed by that. So it's, you know, when you can look back and see God's hand rather than look back and seeing all the bad things.
Well, it's just that, to me, it boils down to the perspective of just don't be selfish. You know,
It's not about me.
I mean, I got my 2 boys and my daughter, especially the 2 boys. They are literally clueless about what I've gone through, and I got no desire to explain it. You know, so you don't need that. You don't need to hear this. You don't need to hear about that. You know, I started here. I'm here now. Through the grace of God, I'm still here. It must be, you know, He's got something for me to do. Like I had a brother that died a few years ago. I'm the oldest of 9, 6 boys. He basically drank himself to death. And periodically he'd have to be taken into the hospital and have his stomach, I guess, pumped out because he looked like he was 12 months pregnant a lot of the time. And that's from the fluids staying in his system. Well, this one, the most recent one before he died, he went into the hospital and he was there for about a week. So me and another brother and my dad went in there and I stayed there for a couple of days. And then I said, oh, I got to go home and get some sleep. So I went home and got some rest, and I went back the next day expecting the worst. And he was still alive, you know. The doctor talked to me and said, hey, he's sitting up, he's talking, he's eating. Oh, okay, I didn't expect that. So is it okay to go in and talk to him? So I go in and talk to him. And he came across to me like I'd never really heard him speak before about why am I still here? I go, well, I don't know. He says, shouldn't I be dead? I go, well, I'm not a doctor. You know, instead of telling him, well, yeah, he should have died, you know, day one. But then what surprised me, he started asking me about what's in the Bible. So I explained a few things to him. We had a little study. And then he asked me again, he says, well, why am I not dead? I said, I don't know. I said, I can't answer that. I said, there's only one person who can answer that, and that's God. I go, maybe he's got something for you to do. And then he kind of looked at me and he goes, well, what is it? I go, I can't answer that either. You know, in time, if you keep progressing the way you should, maybe it'll be revealed to you. I said, I don't know. I wish I could answer you, but, you know, and that kind of surprised me because he's always been one of these brothers, these people that just troubles his middle name. You know, he'd go out of his way to cause problems. And now he's asking me, and it may be a realization that he was close to death or facing death more seriously, you know. And I says, well, when you get out, we'll continue on with some studies. Okay. And he sounded sincere about it. But within a couple of weeks, he went right back to what he was doing. And by the end of that month, he had passed. So, I don't know. Okay,
usually when we're face to face with our frailty, our humanity, word escapes me, I'm looking for, the more vulnerable we know we are, then we tend to give in to God. But when we can get back to where we're relying on our own strength, then we forget about God.
Well, I've been there more than once, so any other closing comments before we do? Okay. Josh has a couple things he wants to bring up.
Okay.
So I'm going to surrender to him.
Hard to follow that, but so I'm going to teach y'all a song real fast because we're going to lead it in service today and you like know it better. So I think he's adjusting something in the slideshow, so we're going to give him a few seconds.
Thank you.
This is a really nice. That is nice. That podium is nice, and it's good for me, maybe not for Raymond. This is a nice podium. Okay, so this is a new song. We're gonna play it and just kind of look at the words and follow. You are